Here's my thoughts on Keke Palmer interviewing Jonathan Majors. I have two different perspectives, I guess, on this. The first one, and hold on a second, we don't know what question she's going to ask. She might be asking questions that we want the answers to. I don't know. But then again, I mean, he admitted to doing the things he did and he's been convicted, so what more could we possibly need to know? And then secondly, and the whole point of this video really is, I need you all to understand that just because someone is a victim of some type of violence or abuse, that does not automatically mean that that person is going to be an advocate for other victims of abuse, or that they will automatically be against any and all abusers, okay? Now, I first want to preface this by saying I do not know Keke Palmer personally, okay? So the examples that I use from this moment on, I'm not talking about her because I don't know her, but I'm bringing up these examples so you guys can understand a little bit more of what I'm talking about. In a perfect world, every single person who has experienced abuse in some form or another would either go on to be an advocate or they would stand hard against abusers of any kind. They would not platform them. They would not support their businesses. They would not listen to their music. They would not watch their movies. In a perfect world, that's what every single victim of abuse would do. Unfortunately, we do not live in a perfect world, and especially with women, we live in a very male-centered society that tells us if you're single, that's bad. Your life is automatically sad and lonely, and you're not complete until you have a man in your life. So with that being said, you will have situations where women have been abused, and they will keep going back to their abuser. For me, once I was gone, I was gone. That was it. That was the end of that story. But there are so many women who, because of loneliness and nostalgia and relationships being the most important thing, they will keep going back, and some women never make it. They never end up tasting freedom because they lose their lives. Example of this is mothers who are abused by their boyfriends or by their husbands, but they so desperately want a father figure in the home. It's etched in their brain that they have to have a two-parent household or nothing. They love having that title of wife or girlfriend, so they will be getting abused and then allow that male partner to abuse their children. And I will say this, not only is it the most dangerous time in an abuse victim's life when she leaves an abuser, because that is the time where that abuser is angry and he's on a mission to hunt her down. Tons of women have lost their lives in that process. But also, and what I don't really hear a lot of people talking about, is you do go through a period where you start questioning yourself and you start gaslighting yourself, and you tell yourself, well, maybe it really wasn't that bad. Maybe I was being dramatic. And he might be texting you promising that he will see a counselor and that things will be different next time. And you and him are going to get a house together and you're going to have a baby or another baby. And he's going to finally get a job if he doesn't have a job. And all your dreams are going to come true if you come back and you start thinking about the good times that are few and far between. But you start thinking about the good times and threading them together so they seem like they were not few and far between. And if you're not careful, you could gaslight yourself into thinking that that abuser wasn't really that bad. And then you go back and the cycle of abuse continues and it gets much worse. This is why, and I know a lot of you might have heard this. This is why, as much as you might love your friends, as much as you might love your family, in a lot of abuse cases, it is safer to not get involved, because then you put your life in danger too. Because if that abuser is looking for that victim and they know that victim is at your house, there's no telling what could happen. I learned that lesson at a long time ago, a church that I used to go to. There was a woman who was getting abused, and they directed her to resources and a women's shelter that could help her if she decided to leave. And I always got upset about that. I'm like, why wouldn't they, take her in or let them live with her? And I asked somebody who was involved in that situation, and they said they have learned over the years that is a very dangerous time. And a lot of women aren't really ready to leave. They just want a place to sleep for the night because they had an argument with their abuser, but they're going to go back the next morning. Any number of things. And so many friends and family members who put on their capes and think that they're helping also lose their lives or wind up in dangerous situations. So much like people having family members who are addicted to drugs, you have to take your hand off that situation, because you will end up putting yourself in harm's way, constantly trying to save that person from further harming themselves. So we can't always expect victims of domestic abuse to magically become a domestic abuse advocate. That's not going to happen in every case. I have a family member who lost all of her children because she was putting them in dangerous, abusive situations so that she could continuously be in dangerous and abusive situations with men. To this day, she thinks her husband is going to magically come back, and it's been like 20, 30 years. I'm not going to seek out the interview because I don't give two damns about Jonathan Majors. But I know I will see clips of it on TikTok, so I'm curious to see what goes on. And I was listening to King of Reads. He is on YouTube, and he was raising the point of, on one hand, Kiki was put in a dangerous situation by Trey Songz. She's been in an abusive relationship, while on the same token defending R. Kelly when she was on The Breakfast Club. So again, victims have to make the decision to go through the healing and recovery process, because if you don't, you will wind up repeating the cycle in different ways, and you could potentially continuously put yourself into harm's way, platforming people who should not be platformed. But the victims have to make that choice. So, getting upset because she's interviewing him, that's a part of her healing journey that she is going to have to decide to partake in, because not all victims go on that healing journey. Much like my family member, they just tumbleweed in and out of that dangerous situation for the rest of their lives. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Not all victims are going to be like me and become advocates and mouthpieces for victims of abuse and try to educate people about abuse and not want to platform abusers. I mean, look at how many women still support Chris Brown, and you would think they would know better because these women have been in similar situations. But you know what? Like I said, they have to make that choice to go on that healing journey, and you can't force them, unfortunately.